2.4, more about linear equations. Problem numbers 1 and 2 are just basically some formulas. So let's make sure we have the basics. We know already slope-intercept form looks like this, y equals mx plus b. What you might not know is point-slope form. Y minus y number equals m times x minus x number. Now remember, m is the slope, and then when you see x number and y number, those are numbers, all right? Standard form, ax plus by equals c. These are the forms that linear equations could take on. We're most comfortable with slope-intercept form, but there are other forms. When you see standard form, the capital A, B, and C is kind of a hint that they're not going to be fractions. So keep in mind, these won't be fractions. And also, by the way, this number won't be a negative. When we get to parallel, parallel means same slope. Perpendicular means opposite. Reciprocal slope. And what that means is this. If there's a slope of 2/3, then a perpendicular line would have a slope of the opposite reciprocal. So you change the sign and you flip the fraction. Now also, don't forget, we already knew from one of the earlier lessons the slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is kind of all background information that you need to know. Number 3 is easy, right? The slope-intercept form. So we need to make sure we know what they're asking. Y equals mx plus b. But they're giving me m and b, so this is an easy question. Y equals 3/4 x minus 1. They won't always be that easy. Problem number 5. Again, this is a slope-intercept form question, so you want your answer to look like y equals mx plus b. So we look at the graph. Right here is the b number. That's the y-intercept. B looks like equals 3. And then for the slope, let's zoom in a little. You want to find somewhere on this graph that's right on a tick mark. And it looks like maybe right here. So I would actually make dots. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count rise. 1, 2, 3, 4. So down 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right, 5. Remember, down is negative and right is positive. So now I know my slope is rise over run, -4/5. So if I know the m and the b, then I should be able to write the equation. Y equals -4/5 x plus 3. Okay, number 7, we're still in slope-intercept form. So we still want y equals mx plus b. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because they give me the m number for the slope, but they do not give me the b number. They do not give me the b number. They give me an x, y point. So what you could do is plug in your x number, your y number, and your m number and figure out your b number. That's one way of doing the problem. And so I'll go ahead and show you that way, I suppose. If you look at y equals mx plus b, this is not the way I would do it. Your y number is -1. Your m number is -3. Your x number is +1. And what we need is the b number. So we just clean this up. -3 times 1 here is -3. You might be able to do that in your head. You can tell it's going to be 2, right? Or solving, we add 2 to both sides. You get b equals 2. If you know b equals 2, you have your answer. Y equals, m number was -3. Remember, that was given to us, times x plus the b number. Now, here's the preferred way of doing it. This is going to be uncomfortable at first, but trust me, this is the best way. You want to start with point-slope form. point slope form was this one. Y minus y number equals m times x minus x number. And it's going to seem weird and it's going to seem like more work at first, but trust me, in the long run, this is going to be the better way. So what I would do is I would take my equation and say y minus the y number. Now notice the y number is -1, so minus -1 is going to be +1. Equals, my m number is -3. And then in parentheses, I have x minus my x number is 1. And so I know that looks weird and it looks hard, but trust me, it's going to be easier in the long run. Remember what we're shooting for. We want to end up with slope-intercept form. That's what they told us. So what we want to do is we want to make this thing look like mx plus b. So for one, I would distribute to get rid of my parentheses. -3 times x and -3 times -1. And then I would get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 1. And I get y equals -3x plus 2. Same thing. So in this problem, it doesn't really matter which method you choose. And I know some of you are going to say, well, this method is easier. And that may be true. But later on, this method is not going to be workable. So the thing I like about this method is it works pretty much every time. So number 9, it says write the point slope form. Well, point slope form is this, y minus y number equals m times x minus x number. So this is all they want. They don't want me to convert. They just want that. And you know, if you notice what you've got a point and the slope. So the point slope form is useful and it's easy when we have a point and a slope. So all I have to do is say y minus my y number equals m is 1 times x minus my x number. Done. That's it. That's point slope form. We don't need to distribute or move anything around. That's it. That's point slope form. You really need to pay attention to the directions. You have to look at what they want and you have to give them what they want. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That's what we're looking for. We need m and we need b, and they don't give it to us. They don't give us either one of those pieces. What they have given us is an xy point and another xy point. So this is one of the harder problems of the day. What we're going to have to do is find m using our slope formula that we knew from the other day. If you have 2 points, we can find the slope. So that formula says the second y is 5 minus the first y is -4 over the second x minus the first x. Looks like that. So we have minus minus right there. That's going to be 9. And we have minus minus. That's going to be -1 plus 4 is 3. 9 over 3, that reduces to 3. So I can see that my slope is 3. Now, at this point, you have a point and the slope. Specifically, you have 2 points and the slope. So what you'll want to do, or what I would do, is pick one of the points. It doesn't matter which one. Pick whichever one you think looks easier. So I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to ignore this one. So if I look at point slope form says y minus the y number. Remember, here's point slope form. Y minus y number equals m times x minus x number. So y minus y number equals m was this 3 times x minus my x number. So minus -1 is going to be +1. Minus -1 is +1. I used this point and this slope to get my point slope form. But remember, you have to pay really close attention to what they want. We want this to end up looking like slope-intercept form. So in this case, we'll do some converting. Let's distribute because we don't want those parentheses, 3x plus 3. So y minus 5 equals 3x plus 3. Only thing left is to get that y by itself. So add 5. We have y equals 3x. 3 plus 5 is 8. Y equals 3x plus 8. Okay. 13. It's the same problem. So we do the same thing. We need to find the slope first. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. And negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Negative over negative is positive. That's 3/5. So now, pick one of the points. Doesn't matter which one. I always pick the one I think looks easier. So that to me is this one. I would ignore that point completely. And I do y minus the y number equals my m was 3/5 times x minus my x number. There's point slope form. The reason I like point slope form is because we're done with that. That's it. But don't forget, this question asked for slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, we would need to get y by itself. So I'm going to show you a trick, and actually this is an extra step, but I think it makes the problem a lot easier. Most people struggle with the fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And multiplying by 5 is kind of weird, but what it does is it gets rid of your fractions. So think about it. If you multiply by 5, that 5 is gone over here. You will have to distribute it on the left, so don't forget that. 5 times each of those things is going to be 5y minus 10 once I distribute. On the right side, though, the 5 cancel. You'll still have to distribute the 3, and you get 3x minus 3. In order to have slope-intercept form, we want to get y by itself. So add this 10. And I see 5y equals 3x. Negative 3 plus 10 is plus 7. Almost there. One more step. We want to divide by 5 to get y by itself. And so if you do that, 5 cancels, you get y by itself. And then keep in mind, you've got to divide both pieces by 5. So when you divide this one by 5, you're going to have a fraction, 3/5 x. And when you divide over here by 5, you're going to have another fraction, 7/5. So we have a fraction in our answer, but what was nice was we didn't have to do any math with it. That was it. 15, we want the slope-intercept form of this equation. We got a little bit of a weird thing on the paper, but that's a 1. So slope-intercept form of this, well, I already see slope-intercept form, but I see this extra piece of information, parallel. This is going to be important, parallel. We don't actually want this line. We want a different line that happens to be parallel. So what you should have remembered, go back to the very front, the very top, very first thing that we talked about. Parallel meant same slope. So we can see that this line has a slope of 2. So my line, which is parallel to this, is also going to have a slope of 2. Think about it. If I've got a slope of 2, then any line that's parallel is going to have the same thing, the same slope. M equals 2. So really what we can do is kind of the same thing as what we did before. We've got a point and the slope. So let's do our point slope form. Y minus the y number. So y is negative 3. So minus negative 3 is going to be plus 3. Equals the m number, which was 2, times x minus our x number. We want slope-intercept form, so we need to make this look like mx plus b. I'm going to distribute the 2. So y plus 3 equals 2x minus 6. And then subtract the 3 to get y by itself. Y equals 2x minus 9. Done. "17 says perp. Perp implies perpendicular. And so perpendicular is the one where we took the opposite reciprocal slope. So in this problem, we can see that the slope is negative 5/2. I always sneak that negative up into the top, so you have a negative number, -5/2. So your perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite reciprocal. So change the sign. This was negative. Mine's going to be positive, and flip it to 2/5. That means I'm using a slope of 2/5 for my perpendicular line. Everything else is exactly the same. So we do y minus the y number was 5 equals the slope was 2/5. That's what we're using for our perpendicular, times x minus the x number is also 5. Now we've got fractions. You don't have to do it this way, but I think the easiest thing to do is to get rid of your fractions using that little math trick. So I would multiply both sides by 5. Multiply by the denominator. That's going to cancel out my fraction, right? On the left side, distribute. So you'll have 5y minus 25. On the right side, the 5 canceled, but you'll still have to distribute the 2. So equals 2x minus 10. What do we want again? Slope-intercept form. So make sure you keep an eye on where you're going. You're going towards slope-intercept form. I want to add this 25 over, trying to get y by itself. So I'm left with 5y here equals 2x, and -10 plus 25 is plus 15. Last step would be to divide by 5, right? Divide by 5. And that cancels out the 5, gives you y by itself. But then you have this fraction right here, right? You're going to have 2 divided by 5. So 2/5 x. And then you're going to have to divide this one by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, so plus 3. Y equals 2/5 x plus 3. Getting close. Number 19. Write the point slope form of the equation of the line. All right, so again, be very careful. They say point slope. So we know we want y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's what we need. Well, we've got a point. We've got 2 points. We've got more than enough points, but we're going to need the slope. And so use your slope formula. M equals y2 is this -1 minus y1 is 1 over x2 is 2 minus x1 is 1. Numerator -2, denominator 2 minus 1 is 1. That reduces to just -2. So your slope is -2. All right, so plugging in, I'm going to use one of the points. I use the one I think looks easier, and I ignore the other one. And then I use this slope. Y minus the y number is 1 equals the slope is -2 times x minus the x number is also 1. And that's it, because that's point slope form. Done. Point slope. Standard form. The sooner you recognize that we're doing the same thing over and over again, the better off you'll be. All right. The only difference here is we want standard form. So go back and look at what standard form looks like. Standard form looks like this. AX plus BY equals C. But the main part of this work is always the same. We want to find the slope and then use a slope and a point to find an equation. So find the slope. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus 5 is -1. And plus here, 3 plus 5 is 8. So my slope is -1, 8. That's weird. But whatever, we've got this. So I start with point slope form. Even though that's not what I want to end up with, I start with point slope. I'm going to use this point. I'm going to ignore this point. So point slope form says y minus the y number equals my m is -1/8 times x minus the x number. Now here's where my fraction trick really pays off. Standard form, remember I said the capital letters kind of are a hint that you don't want fractions. So we're going to get rid of the fractions anyway. We don't like fractions here, so let's multiply by 8 to get rid of those fractions. On the left side, we can distribute. We get 8y minus 32. On the right side, that 8 cancels. That was the whole point. You still have a negative 1 that needs to be distributed. Distribute the negative 1. That's going to give me negative x plus 3. So keep your eye on the price. Keep your eye on what we need. We want our variables on the left side. So we're not isolating y like we did before. We're trying to get our variables on the left side. So instead of, dividing by 8 or whatever to get y by itself, I'm going to start by adding this x over. Okay, I want that x over on that side. So we'll have an x, and we'll have this plus 8y right here. All right, but you know what? I want this negative 32 over here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add this 32 over to cancel that. I don't want that number on the left. I want the number on the right because that's what it looks like in my standard form. So these two things cancel. I've got 3 plus 32 is 35. X plus 8y equals 35, and there's my answer. That's standard form. Last one, write the standard form. So I want the same thing. Standard form, you have to know this. Looks like this. Don't overthink it. The first thing to know is it's going to look like this, right? ax plus by equals c. So the second thing is none of these numbers are going to be fractions. So let's multiply by 4 to get rid of those fractions. Now be careful because you're really going to have to multiply everything by 4. So let's do that. If I multiply by 4, I'm going to get 4y equals, and then those 4's are going to cancel, so I'll have negative 9x, and then 4 times 5 is 20. And be very careful. You can cancel out this 4, but it still has to get multiplied by the 5. It's like distributive property. So we're really pretty close. We just want our variables on the left. So let's add 9x. Now I put it over here because they're not like terms. Don't add the 9 and the 4 and get 13. They're not like terms. So don't put them together. We don't want them together anyway. 9x plus 4y equals 20. That's standard form, and that's finished.